Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us during the Lytham Partners Fall 2024 Investor Conference. My name is Roger Weiss, and I'm a Vice President at Lytham Partners. In this presentation, we welcome Nexalin Technology, New York Stock Exchange ticker symbol NXL, and with us today is their President and CEO, Mark White. As way of background, Mark has been associated with Nexalin for over a decade, beginning as a consultant and assuming the chief exec's duties in 2018. He has over 25 years of experience spanning med devices, clinical operations, and business development, and has expertise in behavioral health and addiction treatment. All right, Mark, let's begin. Mark, when I think about certainly what's gone on since COVID, we are in the midst of a true healthcare epidemic, not only domestically, but globally. Can you kind of give us a feel for from your end of the world, the size and scope of the epidemic, the challenges, and how Nexalin's technology addresses those challenges?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, good morning, and thank you for having me. Most importantly, thank you for letting me present Nexalin Technology and our vision for the future of mental health treatment. So in all of my presentations, I always try to help everyone understand the significance of the global mental health epidemic. And what are we talking about? We're talking about children with behavioral issues, children with attention issues. We're talking about parents with cognitive issues, Alzheimer's, dementia. We're talking about friends and family with addiction, depression, anxiety, insomnia. We're talking basically about the fact that we all know someone that is struggling with some type of a mental health challenge that has in some way disrupted their quality of life. And what Nexalin Technology is it's a drug-free treatment, number one. It utilizes frequencies. And when I talk about frequencies and waveforms, what I'd like for everybody to understand is your brain has two systems. It has a chemical system and an electrical system. And these two systems operate in organic matter in the brain. Think of your brain as an organic supercomputer. And when one part of your brain is out of balance, you're going to have some type of a symptom, whether it's attention issues, whether it's depression issues, whether it's sleep issues, whether it's addiction issues, whatever the situation may be. We also know that today, the only standard of care, the only real treatment opportunity for patients struggling with these issues is unfortunately medication. And in addition to medication, you would have talk therapy. And unfortunately, only about 45%, when you actually crunch the numbers, when you really look at statistics of this, quote, mental health epidemic, you'll see that only about 45% of patients respond favorably to treatment, and most of them deal with a side effect profile related to the medication or slow progress related to talk therapy. So while the therapeutics, the treatments, are not as effective as we feel they should be, there continue to be an escalating number of patients. So in other words, we're getting more patients that are responding less to treatment, and therefore we now have this epidemic. It's not an American epidemic, it's a global mental health epidemic. I travel all over the world speaking to different business partners and different organizations at the medical and clinical level and the government level. Everyone has a challenge in their society, and this is where Nexalin steps in. So if the theory of this epidemic is that brains have a imbalance in the chemical or the electrical systems, what I'd like to propose is when you come to work and your computer's moving slow, let's say it's depressed, what do? You reboot and you reset your computer. All right, if your brain is an organic supercomputer and you've been affected by some type of trauma, or you've been affected by some sort of issue in life that has affected your brain's health, because that's what we're talking about, what if you could organically, naturally, non-invasively reset the brain using a treatment that is completely undetectable to the human body, that has no side effects, that's 70 to 90% effective, and can be long lasting if you make the necessary life changes, food, nutrition, behaviors. Specifically, what Nexalin Technology is doing is we have developed a technique where we understand, are actually able to emulate the natural electrical frequencies of the brain called EEG. So everybody knows EKG of the heart. Think of EEG of the brain. And if that's the brain's electrical language, frequency language, then what we are able to do is emulate or recreate that natural electrical energy. And we then create what we call a waveform, which is where we stack frequencies. And the reason frequencies are so important is your neurons in your brain will respond very specifically to very specific frequencies. The challenge is to get the frequencies into the middle, what we call the midbrain, so that this corrective response, this organic reset, reboot, reset, etc., is effective and safe. And so therefore, this natural electrical energy, as I said, it's undetectable to the human body. So there is no patient discomfort. There is no threshold of pain. It's not invasive. And as I said, we've studied various frequency responses so that we now understand how to talk to the brain. So we stimulate through the forehead. We put a pad on the forehead. We put a pad behind each ear. So it's a global brain, meaning we stimulate the entire brain. We're not trying to, unfortunately, like some doctors are trying to determine what structure in the brain is tied to the reported condition, anxiety, depression, insomnia. What Nexalin is involved in is stimulating the whole brain to promote this organic response that is natural, long-lasting, side effect-free, non-invasive, and can be done in a very comfortable setting. So Roger, that's pretty much a good introduction of the global mental health epidemic, why the numbers are becoming literally devastating to our economies and our societies, and how we're going to start treating the underlying cause of the problem and not the symptoms. Medication treats the symptoms. Nexalin Technology treats and addresses and organizes the cause of the problem so that it's no longer a problem.
Well, I think you might have just answered my next question, which was what separates Nexalin apart from the rest, really the rest of the mental health space in terms of treatment, and why do you think it's such a compelling investment opportunity here?
Okay, so when I get on my clinical presentations, I really like for everyone to be able to understand what we're doing and why this is so different. So I'll try to balance both the business side and the investment side, along with some of the clinical questions. So first of all, what I'm getting ready to explain to you is protected by a very strong intellectual property portfolio. So this is not a Me Too device, because I know a lot of you that have been around med tech, biotech, you said, oh, I've heard of this. I think I know somebody who has one. No, not yet. And this is where I talk about why is Nexalin so unique? What's so different about Nexalin? Again, a quick history lesson. So we've been using various types of stimuli to address brain health for decades. Well, it started with shock therapy back in the 40s and the 50s, and everybody's familiar with ECT. The older listeners will remember the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And that idea was just putting electrical voltage, energy into the brain to create a convulsion, and then the brain would reorganize itself when it was post-convulsion, and it would basically help diminish some of the symptoms. Barbaric, required hospitalization, medication, lose your memory, et cetera, et cetera. But my point is, we start understanding about the relationship and the response of the brain to electrical energy for 50, 60 years. We then start moving forward. We look at light stimuli. We look at sound stimuli. We've got, these people trying to sell toys on the internet with your little AA batteries, and they get a doctor that puts their name on it, and it says, yes, you can have this device, and the idea is that you're going to treat your major depressive disorder at home in front of the TV. All the way fast forward to about 15 years ago, we got pharma that started creating what's called transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is magnetic energy. So we've got magnetic energy, we've got direct current energy with voltage, we've got light, we've got sound. what you'll recognize is that in none of those types of treatments were we able to discuss the fact that the brain has its own electrical frequency pattern. And the ability to work with the brain is far more effective than to disrupt the brain and let it reorganize itself, or just put, as the toys do, just put the mild electrical energy into the brain to see how it responds. What Nexalin's doing is we've studied that natural electrical energy. We've then studied the response of specific frequencies. And then we've understood and done research on the underlying cause of most of these mental health issues. And we're looking for a very specific neurochemical. Remember, we have an electrical system and a chemical system. So we're looking for a very specific neurochemical electrical response based on a set of frequencies. And the manner in which we do that is where the intellectual property is. This is why it's a compelling investment opportunity, Roger, to use your words, because there's nothing like this in the medical technology community. There isn't any biotech that's actually studying the electrical energy of the brain. How do we communicate with the brain, study the responses so that we know with a high level of certainty what the neurochemical response will be that's associated with the treatment. And all we need to be able to do now is clear the threshold of discomfort. In other words, make it undetectable so that we can increase the power. And what I basically just ran through is what we call our apparatus protection, the device itself. My engineers assure me that this is one of the only techniques made in the world, if forever, that allows us to literally treat the brain with an undetectable energy. And then we surround that patent with different, what we call methods of treatments. So anxiety, depression, insomnia, Alzheimer's, dementia. We have about 32 patents pending. And all of these patents are designed to protect this state-of-the-art technology that is way ahead of its time, that's not like anything in the marketplace today. And as I said, runs 75 to 90% efficacy.
Wow. I know we have a limited amount of time, so I'll move on and kind of segue into, clearly, I think this has been talked about as a game changer in the mental health treatment area. What specifically is different from the other technologies for both patients and consumers? And how do you highlight the unique aspects of Nexalin's approach here? And how do you set the company apart in the marketplace?
All right. So we're a big research company. I mean, obviously, we're a research and development company. We're designing mental health, non-invasive technologies. But a lot of our research, let's talk about this. If we have this global mental health epidemic, what are the greatest challenges? Okay, number one, response, efficacy. Okay, bingo, we've got that. That's Nexalin's pure electrical frequency-based waveform. All right, so we've got a treatment, 75, 90%. Side effects. Everyone is afraid of side effects today. It's one of the greatest barriers to treatment is low efficacy and side effects. So if we've got high efficacy and no side effects, we basically have conquered the treatment challenge. But what our research shows is that the real challenge is access and the stigma. So how do I get the treatment that I need? How do I get access? What if I live out in the country? What if I'm in the Midwest? I'm 100 miles from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm a farmer, and I've got severe depression and severe anxiety because I've been around chemicals in the cornfield, hypothetically. How do I have access? Or how about this? I live in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, and I do not want to go to a psychiatrist. I don't want anyone to see me at the psychiatrist's office. I don't want to be around a psychiatrist. So in other words, the stigma of mental health. So we've got stigma and access. We've already taken care of side effects and treatment response. So what if, rather than going to the doctor to get a mental health diagnosis, to then go sit and either get medication or go into a dark room and receive one of these technology treatments that I've just described? What if you never had to go to the psychiatrist's office? What if you could come home after several months of depression and you could say to your partner, I'm really struggling with depression. I really need to do something about it. And I'm going to see if there's something that's drug-free. You get on the phone, you come into a virtual clinic. So for everyone out there, you know telehealth from COVID, you know that you're still getting telehealth appointments. Telehealth, then there's telepsychiatry. Imagine telehealth, telepsychiatry on steroids. Imagine the entire clinical experience is hosted and performed through the phone. So I go on the phone, I do an appointment with the doctor. The doctor logs into the portal of the virtual clinic from his office. He then takes the information from you over the phone. He types in the information. He says, yes, I agree. You are suffering with a major bout of depression. What I'm going to do based on your request for drug-free treatment, I'm going to send you a medical device called Nexalin Technology. And what we're going to do is we're going to ship a headset to your home. What I'm showing you here is the future of mental health treatment. It is the privacy of your home. It is performed, managed, and prescribed through a virtual clinic. I've already said that we stimulate through the brain, through the frontal lobe of the brain and behind each ear. So I'm showing you electrodes that go behind the ear. I'm showing you an electrode that goes on the brain, on the frontal lobe of the brain. I put this on, I download the app, I turn on the device. The protocol is downloaded from the cloud that the doctor put in. I'm now able, as a doctor, to monitor your treatment. I'm able to prescribe it for 30 days. You, as a patient, are able to receive the treatment in the privacy of your own home. We're able to communicate through data digital packages, all the compliance, all of the frequencies, all of the technology data questions that need to be monitored, the treatment response, everything is done in a virtual setting. And this is the future of mental health treatment: safe, effective, side effect free, undetectable, privacy of your own home, in the privacy of a virtual clinic appointment with your psychiatrist, and can be a long-term quality of life opportunity, which is really what Nexalin is about, is long-term quality of life.
Got it. So when a patient puts on the headset, what exactly is the treatment that they're getting? What's the treatment do? How does it function? And how does it address those various mental issues that we've talked about?
Correct. So as I said earlier, we're using a specific set of frequencies to stimulate the entire brain. It's a 40-minute treatment once a day, 15 to 20 treatments, depending on the doctor, over a 4 to 6 week period. After the initial protocol, you'll then have a follow-up appointment, just like you would in any other situation with the doctor. He'll look at your data. He'll say, well, I see you did 18 out of 20 appointments. I see that there's no adverse side effects. I don't see any events that required any safety concerns. I see that you're reporting that you're feeling much better. This is good news. I want you to now start using the device 3 times a week for 40 minutes, once each day, and I'll see you in 60 days. He authorizes the device, and then the device will now function for the next 60 days. Once a day, requires fingerprints and facial ID. This is a medical device. This is an FDA-cleared medical device that is prescribed, managed, and monitored by a physician in a virtual clinic setting.
Very good. Let's just follow up on that. Could you talk about the regulatory process that got you the FDA clearance, and kind of what you went through before it could be used on human beings? And as far as the regulatory pathway for your go-to-market strategy, kind of what do you see?
Great. Okay, it starts with, so we're going to go back in time. We started studying rabbit brains. Rabbit brains anatomically are similar to the human brain, especially in their response from a neurochemical standpoint. Again, reminding everybody, chemicals and frequencies is how the brain operates. And therefore, these two systems are dysregulated or out of balance. So our model is to balance the brain and to basically provide that treatment in the privacy of the home. Okay, so the go-to-market strategy, obviously, if it's a medical treatment that requires FDA clearance, we have to take this device as well as a clinical device, because we have one that can be offered in a clinic for someone that may be suicidal, and the doctor wants the patient to receive treatment in a clinical observation setting first, and then they can be stepped down to the headset to be used at home. So we are in front of the FDA. We had an earlier generation technology that was originally approved for anxiety, depression, and insomnia. We are no longer manufacturing that equipment. We have put all of our focus and our emphasis in the Gen 2 clinical device called the Sync and our Gen 3 Nexalin Halo device. We've been through pre-subs with the FDA. They have told us that they expect that this will be a de novo classification product. So just so everyone knows, when you go to the FDA with technology, you can say, my product is similar to X product. My product behaves like this. That's called a 510K. This is not a 510K product. This is not a Me Too product. We expect and are in the process of preparing to file a de novo application, which is it's a term that means it's a new product category with the FDA, new product code, new product category. So one of the investment opportunities here is this has never been done before. This is brand new. But let me quickly say that over the last 24 months, we've published 9 clinical trials. Yes, they were done offshore. They were not done in the United States because Nexalin is a smaller company. We weren't going to spend $15 to $20 million in the American academic market to prove that the technology works. So we went offshore, performed close to 12 clinical trials. 7 of them have been published in leading international peer-reviewed journals, controlled trials with neuroimaging, fMRI, PET scans, and your traditional patient response. And all of these clinical trials, as I said earlier, showed 75, 90% efficacy with no adverse side effects, minor headaches one time tied to hydration issues. So it's not a hypothesis. This is not a hypothesis. This technology is real. It works. It's published. It's clinically cleared. It's in front of the FDA as a Class 2 and Class 3 medical treatment for both the Halo headset and the clinical device. Did I answer all the questions?
I think you did, although I want to dig into what you just said a little bit more, which was talking about side effects. I mean, because we certainly know in terms of therapeutics, there can be a wide range of side effects from things like toxicity to gastrointestinal issues, et cetera, et cetera. So just to be clear, in terms of patients who've been involved with these trials, side effects, pain, discomfort,
undetectable. Undetectable. You can't feel it. So there's no pain, no discomfort. All right. So when the one observation we have made, if a client is dehydrated and they don't drink water before the treatment, there's a detoxing, because a lot of what causes mental health issues is a chemical imbalance in the brain, frequently, unfortunately, caused by the original treatment, more specifically medication. So in order to improve the functional health of the brain, you have to perform a detox. Nexalin's actually creating, remember earlier, I said, imagine if you could reset and reboot. What do you do when you reset and reboot your computer? You clear the memory. Well, we're not going to wipe out your memory. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, what if you could flush out the toxins in your brain? What if you could flush out the chemicals in the brain that don't need to be there, so that the brain can then respond in a positive way towards normalizing? And that's where Nexalin is. So there are no adverse side effects that require any type of medical attention. There is no suicidal tendencies. There is no internal bleeding. There is no gastrointestinal issues. That's not what we're offering here. When I tell you it's side effect free, I am telling you that the only response, the only side effect is recovery. You're going to feel better, because it's a natural, it's like getting a massage or taking a run or riding a bike, except it's specific to the brain and it penetrates the deep structures of the brain that are very difficult to reach. For the doctors and medical professionals, we're getting beyond the blood-brain barrier with our penetration, and we're doing it safely, effectively, and without the patient ever being aware that the energy is stimulating that deep in the brain. And I can tell you that because that's what scans, fMRI, PET scans, et cetera. If we had more time and had our chief medical officer, he could give you some of the more specifics. But for this community, I think that I've made my point.
I think you have. I think we're also running out of time, so we have about 5 more minutes. So let me just move on. One of the things you talked about earlier was mental health stigma, which is a huge out there. It's probably one of the biggest challenges today in terms of treating mental health. Um, how does Nexalin help reduce or eliminate that issue?
That's what I was saying earlier. That's the virtual clinic. The stigma is one of the greatest barriers other than side effects. That's the stigma of mental health treatment. And you no longer have to get in the car and go to a medical provider. No more going to the doctor's office. Everything is done in the privacy of your phone. So everything is here. You can file on insurance. You can go cash. We want the patients to be comfortable. We want them to know that their privacy will be honored and respected, and that they will not ever be put in a difficult situation with themselves or other medical professionals or anyone in the thing. So the stigma is addressed with the virtual clinic.
Got it. Uh, one of the big things is obviously when you're looking at med tech and device land, research and development initiatives and spending, um, you know, obviously R&D plays a crucial role in both initial success and then continuing success of a company. Could you talk about the projects that you guys are currently working on at Nexalin, and kind of what are your thoughts about the future, and how does it fit into your long-term growth plans?
Okay. So since we're down to the last 5 minutes, I'll try to move this as quickly as I can. All right. We have three primary areas of focus, and this is also for the investment community going to answer why is this a compelling investment opportunity. Number one, your primary mood disorders, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and the subcategories of those three symptoms. We are in front of the FDA for insomnia and anxiety first, planning a strategic plan for long-term PMA for class 3 treatment of major depressive disorder. We've been cleared in the Asia markets for depression and insomnia. We've been cleared in the Middle East for depression and insomnia. We've been cleared in Brazil and South America for anxiety, depression, and insomnia. And then and that is basically our global footprint. So while we're developing the FDA and the European markets, the CE mark and the FDA, we've already obtained clearances overseas and are working in our business models overseas. Okay, so that's the first part of this. That's what we call our mood disorder effort. All right, the second is TBI, traumatic brain injury, strokes, PTSD, the military. So we've done some projects that were done in Southern California through military veterans that were non-responders back from the war and had had very difficult PTSD and very difficult severe traumatic brain injuries. So we did some projects with that. We were able to not only demonstrate the biomarkers associated with those disease states, but we were also able to show improvement in the biomarkers pre and post treatment, along with some behavioral adjustments in the veterans community. This prompted a whole new division with Nexalin called Nexalin America, and that is focused primarily on the relationship with the government. I've had 32 meetings on the Hill in Washington, D.C. We're working with sitting congressmen, sitting senators on developing new initiatives, off-balance sheet funding, grants, a whole array of projects dedicated to the veterans that are threatening suicide, have struggles with addiction, have struggles with TBI, PTSD. One area there. Last is going to be two very big problems we have: Alzheimer's, dementia, and addiction. And so right now we know that addiction's a brain-based disease. We suspect that Alzheimer's and dementia has something to do with plaque buildup of peptides and protein change associated with the beta amyloids. I believe I got those terms right. Anyway, my point is primary mood disorders, military, TBI, PTSD, last but not least is the Alzheimer's dementia. And for those of you out there, read our press releases, read our clinical trials, and you'll be able to understand where we're in the process of seeing some tremendous opportunities for this company. I can tell everyone that's watching this, the future of mental health treatment is what we call digital medicine. It is a causal-based treatment that effectively treats the underlying issues of all the conditions we just discussed. And this is where Nexalin's research and development department is literally decades ahead of the competitors, because we have tapped into that natural electrical energy of the brain and how to respond specifically, how the brain responds specifically to frequencies, and this dramatic breakthrough in the response, which doubles the treatment response of medication.
Wow, Mark, that is super. Unfortunately, we are out of time right now, but I thank you for bringing us up to speed and speaking to Nexalin Technologies technology and also the opportunities on a go-forward basis. To all our viewers out there, please note that Nexalin's management will be participating in one-on-one meetings during the conference. So please go to www.lythampartners.com/fall2024 and please register for a meeting. We hope all of you are enjoying the conference, and thank you again. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.